And welcome back to the Flow Show. I'm Joanna Turner, Intuitive Business Mentor, and today is a very quick little episode, and it is linking up with a meditation that I will also post straight after this. So the topic today is our 11 portal, and it begins on the 1st of November this year, 2024, and runs all the way to the 11th of November, the 11/11. And it is always an intense period and powerful. However, adding the fact that the year is an 8-year, the 2024, in numerology, it is even more powerful. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I will tell you what I'm doing for this 11/11 portal, and then that will make a little bit more sense when we dive into the meditation, because it's going to bring in that element very specifically, and it will help me on my mission, my planetary grid work mission that's coming up, and hopefully it will help you and also our collective. So we will get into it right now. I'm really excited about this time. It feels big, it feels expansive, and it feels exciting. So my last episode, I talked a lot about shadow work. That is still going on. This is still an important time for doing that. It's still a heightened time for release. However, on the 1st of November, we also have a beautiful new moon. So that brings in that time for manifesting. But because we are in Spooky Scorpio season, it is still, even though it's a new moon and a beautiful time for setting intentions, it's also still a good time for releasing. So we want to be sort of imagining both parts as we go into this 11/11 time. So let's talk about it. So the number 11 is powerful. Anyway, it's a master number in numerology, and it represents intuition, spiritual insight, and a gateway to higher consciousness. Now, that is really what we are all about, is increasing our vibration, opening up, and really activating our consciousness to another level. So we're coming online, and more people, after we've just come through an intense eclipse season, people are just coming online. I spoke to somebody not that long ago, and they'd had an awakening in the last few months, and I would say they were pretty much up to date with everything that I was up to date with, and that would have been 15 years in the making. So when people are coming online and their spiritual gifts are opening up, it is happening fast. So it's an exciting time, but we've got to be a little bit cautious when that happens, because there is a lot to learn as well. So if you're noticing that, exciting. So let's see. So we've got the 2024. That's a powerful with representing the 8. It represents abundance, balance, and is a really transformational portal when you combine the 11/11 and this manifesting power of the 8. So it's just a fun time. And if you are starting to open up spiritually, come online, things you might notice, I talk a lot about looking for the signs, the synchronicities. The obvious one that a lot of people talk about is obviously seeing repeating numbers. So seeing 111 on the clock, you glance at your screen and you notice the ones. It's very normal. You might see 2s repeating, 4s repeating, 8s repeating, and they all mean different things. And I often see car registrations with them, and different signs that way. Sometimes if it's bin day, I might see somebody with a whole load of bins out, in the number 1 house or the 11 house, and they've got their 3 bins out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all the ones. So yes, it is Thursday, bin day in Scotland today. So it just depends. You might see it in just different things. You might start to see it on TV shows in the background, all sorts of different ways the numbers can start to talk to you. I'm not going to run through what they all mean today, but just know that once you start seeing the repeating numbers, it usually means that you are on your path, spiritually awakening, and it's an exciting time. And when I start seeing signs and synchronicities, I feel very supported. I feel like I'm not alone in this. I'm like, okay, this is my higher purpose, and it feels really good to me. So we've got that. So it might be a time where your emotions are heightened. You might start feeling like it's a really good time, obviously, to release old patterns, or maybe there's some new perspectives coming. It really feels like a fresh start at the moment, and that is really exciting. So we've got all of this going on, and at this time in the 1111, it's a time to really connect with your ancestors, and I'm going to bring that into the meditation that we'll put up shortly. And what I'm doing during this time is I will be meditating every day, hopefully, most days anyway. And I'll be focusing on what I want to bring into my life, what I want the world to be like, especially with all of the stuff going on in the world at the moment. With obviously, we've got the elections going on in the US, we've had crazy weather in Spain, they had terrible floodings in Valencia, there's wars. You can devote this time to whatever you choose. If you want to just focus on peace and harmony, that would be an absolutely beautiful thing to focus on. And you can bring in what you want as well, but really focusing on these intentions in this portal is going to be super, super powerful. So whatever you choose, just make sure you're focusing on the good, because we want to bring obviously more of that in, and a good time to focus on the global healing, on unity, and the collective piece of this puzzle. And as we do that, we want to also connect with obviously the ancestors, the sacred sites. What I'm doing is I have been invited, my projector self loves an invitation, and I have been invited by Julia Weigart, who I had on the podcast from the Sacred Travel podcast. And she also, I was interviewed on hers, a two-parter all about Scotland and the vortexes and ley lines of Scotland that are open at the moment. Definitely check that out if you haven't. It was really good. And she was feeling very strongly, and I had been, it all seems to sort of culminate around the 11/11 time. And she's asked me if I would go to Clavacairns, which is up near Inverness in Scotland, which is the site where in Outlander Claire went back in time. And it is just a really potent portal that feels important at this time. So she's asked me to be there, and she is going to be connecting through from Geneva, which I talked about a little bit in a past podcast. Geneva is all linked to time. They make clocks there. It's a time portal in itself. So she's going to be in Geneva. I'm going to be in Clavacairns, and I've also been tuning into Matthias De Stefano, Robert Edward Grant. Those guys have been spending a lot of time up in Scotland as well at Clavacairns, really aware of this time healing element. And they're going to, I don't know if they're actually going to be there, I don't think so, but they have been spending a lot of time there focusing on helping heal time as well. So I don't know where they're choosing to be in 11/11, but I'm sure it will be powerful, and they will be focusing on some of this healing work as well. So we also might link in, I've got a friend in Amsterdam, and Julia has another friend in Paris. So we might be linking the four of us to powerfully connect and heal this line that goes from Clavacairns to Geneva, in the hope that we can do some work to heal time. Now, I heard something about, I believe he was talking a little bit about the Higgs boson particle accelerator, that they were doing some experiments, and that was part of the reason that the timelines were broken. And obviously we've also in Geneva, it's no coincidence that they have CERN operating and firing particles and playing with things. And often we believe that what's happening in Geneva at CERN is also linked to the Mandela effects that you experience. Like when you look back, I'm going to think of the ones off the top of my head, but let's use Mandela. So a lot of people remember him being in prison and having a big funeral. And then on whatever timeline we're on now, he survived, he got out of prison, he became president of South Africa, and he died a free man. So but a lot of people remember that one differently, and that was kind of the first one that really kicked off the awareness for people about the now named Mandela effect. So you can see it quite often in movies. People are always conflicted about is it the Bernstein Bears or was it the Bernstein Bears or the colour of Britney Spears' skirt in her Baby One More Time video. I know these aren't important, but sometimes when you are looking back or having a moment with different things yourself, you might be like, wait, I remember that differently. But because it's matrix and we are experiencing time concurrently, now what I believe in that is that past, present, and future is all happening at the same time. We live in this multi-dimensional holographic universe. And the beautiful thing about healing time and healing through time is that we get to impact all of the other realities that we have existed in, past, present, and future, which are all really happening concurrently at the same time. And for instance, if I do some inner child work, that impacts my past, my inner child, but it can actually impact my current life because I've healed my inner child, so the timeline shifts and changes, and my current life changes in line with, had that kind of never happened in my past, what would my timeline look like? And I can shift onto a higher timeline once I've healed the things that happened in my inner child. And the same goes for past lives. So when you heal a past life, it heals what's currently the patterns that are happening in this lifetime. And the beautiful thing is it can also impact the future. And I have seen this happen in just absolutely miraculous ways personally. There's a few stories that I've just never shared, but it can, when you heal yourself, it has a powerful ripple effect on your family. Like I said, your ancestors were really connecting with them at this time. And it also can affect the future. So I personally don't have children, but I believe the more that I heal family trauma, it will tidy up and heal things going on in my nephews and nieces' lives and their timeline going forward, even though we're blood relatives, but they're not my children. But I still believe I can have an impact on them and their future by doing my own healing work. Obviously, if their parents did it, that would have probably an even more significant impact. But I do believe that I can influence the future generations of my family, even if I don't have children. And I can also impact the previous generations of my family as well. For instance, I don't know if I've ever told this little story. I'll tell a couple of little stories that I wasn't intending to, but you know me. So one of the very, very first I think I did maybe tell this. Okay, I'll be very quick. But one of my very first healings I ever did, this is 15 years ago in Thailand. I did some family constellations work, and we have these little tiny ceramic figurines representing different family members. We worked with, father, mother, brothers, feeling their pain, their grief, and then he sort of stacked up. You knew who your grandparents were, and I was able to tune into their energy and their pain. And he'd stacked them sort of going back the way. And when I put my hand over my great grandmother, I felt this intense grief, and I was bawling and processing a huge amount of emotions on her behalf. And he was asking, what are you feeling? What happened? And it was the pain of I thought that I had lost both my sons in the war. So that wasn't the feeling, that was the awareness I had. And I processed a huge amount of trauma kind of on her behalf. But obviously I was holding it somewhere in my field because it was unprocessed within my ancestry. And what I was able to do was after that speak to my mum. I said, hey, did gran or great gran or something lose both her children in the war? And my mum was like, no, she didn't. And then she went, hang on a second. When I was just a little girl, I came home from school and they were poring over some letters, some telegrams had come in. And they were told me to sort of, oh, never you mind, just go up to your room, don't worry, everything's okay. But in the same week, was it the same day or within a couple of days, my great grandmother had gotten telegrams telling her that both of her sons were lost in the war, unknown whereabouts. And what I had felt in that session 15 years ago, many years after the fact, probably processing the grief 80 years later, let's say. So what had happened was, it was all of the unfelt emotions, that, oh, don't worry, don't, they didn't feel like it, they swept their emotions under the carpet, they didn't feel things. And so I felt all of her grief at believing she'd lost both of her sons in the war. Now, the story goes, they actually were both alive magically. One had been torpedoed off the coast of South Africa and survived and made it back to Cape Town, where he ended up marrying his nurse and never leaving South Africa and having a child. And that was his story. I remember meeting him, my Uncle Billy. And then the other guy had got off his ship in Australia, collapsed when he was on leave in the toilets, and it turned out he had pneumonia or something like that, and he'd been taken away to hospital, but the boat had not been able to trace him because he'd collapsed randomly in a public toilet or something like that while on leave on land in Melbourne, and he'd been then taken to a sanitarium up in the Blue Mountains or something. So a bit random, but they did survive. Anyway, that grief has now been well and truly processed. So we just don't need to, obviously they did survive, but we don't need to hang on to that grief in my field, in my timeline anymore. I also did some really wild forgiveness work around a situation with both. I've got two half brothers, and after having done, I won't go into the total details of this right now, but after having done very specific forgiveness work around both of them, they both individually reached out to the family within about 24 hours after having not probably reached out for one of them for probably close to 20, 30 years. So that was wild. But I could tell that I had dropped it out of my field, and obviously there had been some sort of impact on them. The timelines of what both of those stories were just so specific that to me there was no other explanation. It was just too strange that I had worked. It was maybe a couple of years apart on both of those situations, but the impact was felt, I believe, by them and by my mother as well, and that then allowed them to come to their own peace and healing, but I'd had to do the work first on my behalf. So that was really, really powerful. So if you have got something going on, you have the power I couldn't have assumed that they would have the experience or would take any kind of action following that, but it started with me. I had to do it myself. So it can be really, really powerful work. And when we talk about healing time, it's about healing through time, healing your timelines collectively, ancestrally, and just personally as well. So for a personal one would be like my inner child, and then we can really impact our future timelines for ourselves, for our families, and collectively as well. So I really encourage you to take this time to really sit with that and feel into the highest possible intention for the world, for peace. And I believe that putting this meditation that I'm going to record out into the world and the fact that multiple people will do it, we will connect at the same time. For instance, on the 11/11, I will be at Capricorns at 11:11 a.m. UK time, and I will stay until 1:11 in the afternoon UK time. So I'll be there a bit early, obviously, to make sure, but I will be there for that 2 hours between the 11/11 and the 1:11, sitting with these energies and specifically doing this work. Also, I will sit tomorrow on November the 1st, 11/11, 1:11, and really be focused and setting my intentions. And you could perhaps make sure or set the intention to do the meditation at those times during the week, to allow an even more powerful effect to happen. Magic can happen when groups of us gather with a similar or shared intention, and it just makes everything even more potent. So that's another reason why it's so important, and it becomes even more impactful at this time. So lots and lots going on. So let me see. Yeah, I definitely believe there's, like we said, this ripple effect that you can have through time, through the collective, and we get to be part of this bigger, beautiful thing. Might feel like I did when I was processing it with this great grandmother. Obviously, it was a lot of grief. It might not be that for you. It might be something completely different, but there is a lot of pain in the collective at the moment. So if you do feel some emotions, it might be yours. It might be somebody within your lineage, and it might be collective as well. Sometimes when I've done work in ceremony during these times, I've processed stuff that I'm like, where did that come from? That wasn't mine. And I can feel sometimes it feels like a sort of wave coming over me, and I will tune into the collective and dedicate it, that time to them. So it's going to be, like I said, different for everybody, but I just encourage you to be open to whatever comes up and to set an intention to help, not just personally but globally as well. So I'm going to encourage you to do that, and we'll do that within the meditation. It all helps bring us towards unity and this new wave that we're coming into of community and connection and opening up to our spiritual powers and moving into a time where we are more compassionate and kinder to each other. And I really believe we can have an impact. Other piece of the puzzle is this concept of DNA healing and activation during this time. So specifically with clavicairns and time and the feeling of time being broken and being healed, it links really strongly into the activation and the healing of our DNA. So I'm going to bring that into the meditation as well. So our DNA holds obviously our genetic information, but it also holds energetic, and you might want to think of them as spiritual codes that are linked to higher consciousness, and also our abilities, our latent abilities that are waiting to be awakened. So we're going to dedicate some of the meditation specifically to activating dormant aspects of our DNA, allowing that to connect us into this higher awareness, our healing abilities, intuition, wisdom, that kind of thing. So we'll do that within it as well. And then let's see. You might also notice after the meditation, it will be strong. We're going to be in the clavicairns with the intention to be there. We're going to obviously be setting the intention to heal and reset our DNA and our cellular memory. And what might come with that is a sort of a detox feeling. So I want to encourage you, when you do this meditation, to make sure you drink lots of water, be grounded afterwards. You might want to do a beautiful detox bath. You could put in I love putting Epsom salts. You could put in some different, sometimes I put Epsom salts, I'll put like a Celtic sea salt. You could put in different clays. You could put a fulvic acid in. There's lots of different beautiful things you can put in a bath. Obviously, essential oils. But yeah, even just if you did just Epsom salts and a couple of sprinkles of lavender or some rose or something, that would be amazing. So just think of it as a beautiful time to detox and nurture your body, and just be aware that it can have that impact. The other thing I do when I'm detoxing is, well, I do enemas, at home enemas. You might not want to go that far. It's a beautiful option at times like this as well. I take activated charcoal at night. It just helps if I've been toxins out of my body during the day. I like to just take an activated charcoal before I go to bed, along with my magnesium. So there's different ways of managing it, but probably the number one thing you can do is drink loads and loads of great filtered water. So highly, highly encourage that. You might find your dreams are especially potent. I would take note of them. I've been getting I've sent messages to my friends recently. I forgot another bit. I'll come back to it. I've sent messages to friends recently because they've come through so specifically in dreams. One friend, I messaged to tell her that she had to buy herself a carbon monoxide detector, and she has, thank goodness. Then she messaged me saying, I've had another dream and I think we were husband and wife in a past life. And I was like, okay. And then I've had another friend message me and telling me her dreams have been really intense and she thinks we had a past life together as well. So you might find that your dreams are really strong and impactful at the moment as well. So you can process a lot of things through your dreams, and just try and be aware, maybe write down things if you wake up in the middle of the night, because often I'll remember bits and pieces, but sometimes I do forget. So if you can write them down, that's amazing. Let's see, anything else? Okay, I think that's everything. Oh, and the last bit I was going to say was when I booked my accommodation for going up to Inverness, I'm going to have 2 nights. I'm going to go to Urquhart Castle the day before, and then I'm going to go to Clavacairns on the 11/11 itself, and then I'll see what else I can. There's loads of different places. I'll see what else I can fit in that day, but I don't know. I might be just wiped out after being in Clavacairns for 2 hours. I just don't know. Will I even still exist? Who knows? Maybe I'll have transported back or forward in time or something like that. I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit nervous actually about seeing what happens, but we'll go and we'll do it anyway. I will see you in the meditation. If you've got any questions or anything like that, let me know, and just take beautiful care of yourself and others during this time, and just be really conscious of where your attention is being diverted, shall we say. I know there's a lot going on in the US at the moment, and it can take you down different rabbit holes. And I just noticed the recording cut off a little bit early there. I don't know what happened, but anyway, have a wonderful 11/11 portal. And if you are looking to do some shadow work or manifestation, then my spooky shadow work special is still available. Check out the details in the comments. It's a 3-session package, and we can dive in and get all the work done with the help of the Akashic Records to release old traumas, patterns, break through limiting beliefs, and make sure you are manifesting magic. All right, take care. And like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I will see you on the other side. All right, take care. Bye.